Welcome to Ku-ring-gai Council Public Forum. The Public Forum is an opportunity to share your views on any issues on the Council meeting agenda and on other general matters that are important to you. It provides an opportunity for councillors to hear directly from the community, understand the needs and concerns of constituents and make more informed decisions. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to outline a few procedures in relation to this evening's public forum. I want to remind everyone that this is a public forum and we must all be respectful of each other. I remind councillors of their oath or affirmation of office made under section 233A of the Act and printed at the front of the business paper. All attendees must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and other relevant council codes, policies and procedures. This meeting is being recorded and the webcast will be published to Council's website. Councillors, Council staff and speakers will be shown on camera. Attendees must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the Council Code of Conduct or making other potentially defamatory statements. Any statements made and actions taken by individuals are those of the individuals making them and are not endorsed or supported by Council. Councillors, Council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during the forum. Councillors and Council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interest that they may have about any item of business that is on the agenda this evening. A few reminders for our speakers this evening. Speakers cannot use or present any props, audios or visual material. Any written material must be lodged when registering or handed to staff. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address Council. A chime will sound when you have 30 seconds left to speak. If you have a lot to say, I encourage you to submit a written submission. Each councillor may ask a maximum of 2 questions. Speakers are under no obligation to answer, but if you do, please limit it to 1 minute. Speakers cannot ask questions of councillors or council staff. Are there any conflict of interest declarations for councillors this evening? No, looks like there is none. So we'll go straight to the speakers. We have 2 speakers speaking on 3 different GB items. Our first speaker is Janet Harwood, speaking on GB2, Arts and Culture Committee minutes of meeting, the 18th of August 2025. And I believe Janet will be speaking for GB2.
Thank you. Thanks.
Whenever you're ready, Janet.
Madam Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I speak as a researcher and on behalf of the wildlife, the bush rat, the water dragon, the gecko, and the python, because all of them have visited us. I would like to thank the Mayor and the Community Director for starting a cultural movement for women in Ku-ring-gai. Most of the protection of Ku-ring-gai is done by women who often spend their own money to protect the local government area. We are in an environmental breakdown, and residents, most of them, don't know this. They don't know the local government area's environmental sensitivity and the double significance of this place. I'm looking at a report, Ku-ring-gai's Biodiversity Study, 2011, and that is like the baseline that we should try and stick to. Land use planning and development systems have not updated the system. So people, including decision makers, are still operating on dangerous old assumptions that Ku-ring-gai local government area is an underutilized open space. And so the culture of overdevelopment is not understood or changed. Hence, my speaking on culture and arts. Arts and culture must now tell people to change and to learn new eco-literacy principles, to deal with the new and dangerous crises that we face. The insect and biodiversity crisis is only just being realized, and it is arguably even more important than the climate crisis. Old bureaucrats in the Department of Planning, Housing and Industry are not yet eco-literate enough. However, they have great power to advise the elected government about land use. This use is happening without knowledge of environmental protection, new protections. It was a very good step to form this committee, and it must become a focus for the rest of New South Wales and Australia to raise awareness of the sensitivity of this local government area. And so Ku-ring-gai, needs to switch to protection as a new business, which is a chart that I'm going to leave for councillors and the general manager.
Okay, are you finished?
I am,
Janet?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from councillors? No. Janet, do you mind just staying there because you are the next speaker on GB6, which I believe you're speaking for the Environmental Committee minutes, August 2025.
That's right.
Thank you.
I'm speaking for, but I'm saying that the Environment Committee needs to become updated to survival economics. It was surprising to see in the Environment Committee minutes talk about tree loss on private land. Is the committee aware that multiple large significant trees have been removed by council on public lands and verges? Why is this not? Investigate and advise council and not be led up the garden path by anyone controlling the loss of trees on public land. For example, when council removed a healthy and significant tree on Catalpa Crescent in Tarahumara, I tried to reason with the removers, but they showed no restraint, and they said, "Get off our worksite. This is a council tree." And other residents have had similar experiences with council trees. So can the committee talk about stopping this in a biodiversity crisis? The committee should not be run by council. It should be an independent body advising council of the community's concerns. If not, just have a staff meeting. The minutes show no debate on fauna management plans. The book that was lent to council on rewilding and the country's extinction rate should have been discussed, or should be discussed, in the Environment Committee. Does the committee know that there is an insect crisis with the whole food chain, including humans, at risk? Is there an understanding of the insect and tree relationship? These are survival issues which the land use planning system needs to become aware of, but is controlling the use of this environmentally sensitive land. The Environment Committee is not just a recreation committee to follow a staff agenda. As I said, this biodiversity and riparian land study of 2011 needs to be the baseline which the Environment Committee maintains. Thank you.
Janice, I've just got a question from Councillor Matt Devlin, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for coming up and speaking this evening on these issues. You made note of a tree that was cut down on Kataupa. From my recollection, I think that was in late February earlier this year when you contacted me about that. We followed up at the time, and I was just asking if you could confirm your recollection that the advice we received from council staff was that all due process in that instance was followed.
Well, I don't think it was, because due process should include the assessment of cumulative impact of many trees removed in the same area. Because now this beautiful moist part of Turramurra has a big, huge, empty space in the sky. And the wind break into Sheldon Forest has been lost, apart from the insects and everything else.
Thank you, Janet. I'll take that on notice and follow up with staff.
Yeah. It's a very serious issue because it can't be reversed.
Thank you, Janet. Our next speaker is David Stone, which I believe is online, who will be speaking on GB 17, Middle Harbour Northern Catchment Flood Study, Report Update and Speaking Against. Whenever you're ready, can you hear us, David?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again on the Middle Harbour Northern Catchment's draft flood study. I appreciate the time that has been spent investigating the issue I raised at the previous public forum. Unfortunately, I think these investigations have largely either missed the point or fallen well short of what is needed to ensure this flood study is fit for purpose and therefore suitable for adoption by council. I raised previously that I believe there are widespread issues with the underlying survey data which has been used to inform the flood study. Based on recent very limited site-specific investigations that have been undertaken since, I maintain this is still the case, or at the very least, I haven't seen anything to suggest that this isn't still an issue. So I'm struggling to understand why the original flood study, without modification, other than with some very minor tweaks, is being put forward for adoption again. The site-specific investigations, as documented in item 29 of the updated submissions summary table, found that there is effectively a very large tree overhanging the creek, and this resulted in an elevation much higher than the actual creek level in the flood study. This is very straightforward and entirely consistent with what I've been suggesting is the key issue here. I would only add that I don't think the issue here is just due to a single tree, but the combined canopy of many trees. Now, council's investigation showed that flood levels have been overestimated by up to 0.5 metres as a result of a single tree at a single location. I don't know if 0.5 metres sounds like a lot or a little to others here, but to put this in perspective, there's a range of sensitivity assessments that are undertaken as part of the study, and these had average changes of about 0.3 metres. So we're talking about an increase here from, in one location, one parameter greater than all the other sensitivity assessments that have been undertaken. I've been racking my brain to try and understand why this issue has largely been dismissed as insignificant a number of times now. I think the reason lies in the fact that Ku-ring-gai is probably a victim of its own success in retaining one of the best urban tree canopies in Sydney, if not Australia. It shouldn't be too big a stretch to understand that there is clearly more than just one large tree overhanging the creek. If you open an aerial photo Ku-ring-gai and play a game of Spot the Creek, perhaps not a commonly played game outside of flood engineers, it's a pretty hard one to win. So I think the significance of this issue simply hasn't been recognised for what it is. I would request councillors to have a think here about how significant the potential costs are to our community if significantly overestimated flood levels are adopted. I don't like to throw out numbers, but it could easily be in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I don't have a real estimate, but it is significant. Knowing the time is up, I'll happily leave it there, and if there are any questions.
Yes, there's a question from Councillor Matt Devlin for you, David.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Stone, for joining us this evening. Just for the benefit of everybody else, I know that you and I have been in communication this afternoon, and that we'll take some of these questions further and see if we can assist from there. Thank you for your time.
Yes, no, that would be good. Appreciate it. And I'm more than happy to assist and answer any further questions at any point.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any further questions for you, David, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We will now move on to general business. So our first speaker is Matthew Hayes, speaking about the importance of better community recognition of people with a hidden disability and the work Council has been doing to achieve this.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and council staff. In the last public forum, just before I was going to speak about improving the nighttime economy, I became one of 9,000 Australians each year to be diagnosed with supraventricular tachycardia, or SVT. This is where there's an error with the electrical systems of the heart that cause commands to suddenly repeat itself over and over again, with no reason, no explanation. Just goes off on its own track. It feels like that you're doing a marathon while you're just sitting on a chair. Once council staff were informed, we got an ambulance, but because of a 2-hour-long wait for an ambulance, that's a state issue for another time, we had to get alternative arrangements to get to the hospital. Thank you, Mum. When we got to the hospital, my heart rate was recorded at 282 beats per minute, and they had to use adenosine to restart my heart again, which was 80 minutes after this whole thing started. I found out that if I'd waited just 10 more minutes, I probably wouldn't be here speaking with you all tonight. So I'm extremely grateful every single day that even now with some lifestyle changes, I'm still here and I'm still standing after all this time. I am beyond grateful to the Manager of Governance, the Director of Corporate, and Donna, who's one of the council rangers here, for their tireless dedication beyond their usual duty of call to help look after me and to get medical assistance. They are literal lifesavers. And I'm grateful to everyone at Council for their support for me over the past few years, starting off with little 15-year-old me insisting on going to a council meeting with my dad continuously complaining about the seats, to then becoming a member of the new Youth Advisory Committee and Young Citizen of the Year, and there's plenty more to go. But there's still many people in this community who, if they saw someone having a medical episode, would just walk away, ignore it. Sometimes might make a few unhelpful comments that escalates a situation and may call the police instead of an ambulance. If this same incident happened in other areas, again, I wouldn't be here speaking with you all tonight. So I implore for people in our community to remember that not every disability is visible, not every medical condition is visible. Remember to treat everyone with respect, and when people say that they have a medical condition, please believe them. And remember, if you can do a first aid course and get CPR training, you never know when it may come in handy. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. We've got a question from Councillor Matt Devlin for you.
G'day, Matt. Thanks very much for speaking tonight. And I know it's probably been a busy couple of days as you've travelled back from Brisbane, seeing the last of the EMUs on their final journey, and that you've also been down to Canberra for the National Leadership Forum, which is quite a spectacle, and I myself attended quite some years ago and I enjoyed it. My first question is, and you've spoken about hidden disabilities, and I note that Ku-ring-gai Council has been a member of the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program. Could you share potentially, or perhaps one or two of the practical changes that our staff or any of our council venues have implemented as part of that Sunflower Program and how that's been of assistance?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question, Councillor Devlin. I think that, a great example was, the last public forum as well, the work that council staff did behind the scenes, helping me out there. And then also with other community events that I've been to as well. So that's, so it's like, say, for example, the citizenship ceremony, there was a lot of help done there behind the scenes, and, and the staff as well over at, Taramo and Gordon libraries are, are extremely helpful whenever I'm around, and they're always very supportive there. So it's been, not just for me, but for so many people with a hidden disability in our community. It's been extremely helpful, the changes that have been made.
That's good to hear. Thanks, Matt. And final question for you is, can you think of any simple steps that council may be able to help, or the council should take in providing help for residents with hidden disabilities within our community, and other countermeasures that we could implement that could spread some awareness in the community.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again, Councillor Devlin. So with this, I, normally, when I chat to, different organisations, I normally, advise them with the sunflower lanyard to not have it be the main encompassing, the overall, like the main part of, of a hidden disability training. There's a lot of people around who might not feel comfortable wearing the lanyard as well, and there's been a couple of other places where where sometimes you can get where you can sometimes get the opposite of what the sunflower lanyard should have, like like if you're not wearing a sunflower lanyard and they don't have an hidden disability, which I don't think is correct. So I think having it as as an aid, as a part of an overall hidden disability operation would be great. Some other things that we can do as well is quiet rooms, like we've had with with the Youth Advisory Committee. We've one of the recommendations that we had was to find, where possible, quiet rooms in our community halls, and also in our libraries, any spare rooms with that, and then also just general awareness, social media advocacy as well, and and being able to create a community where people can be open about their disabilities and any other differences that they might have.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for helping make the invisible visible. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Janet Harwood, who will be speaking on the topic of Rescue the Future. Protection is the new business. It's not the economy, it's the environment we must protect. Janet, would you just mind moving the microphone a bit closer to you? Thank you.
Thank you. The Arts and Culture and Environment Committee are crucial to rescue the future, and councillors must help them to make protection the new business. In survival economics, it is not the environment, it is the environment and not the economy that will protect the future. A counter-offer to state and federal government as an alternative to losing more eco-assets in destination Ku-ring-gai between two and three national parks is essential to make the community aware that Ku-ring-gai is an eco-literacy destination on a biodiversity rail corridor with a transition town in Tarahumara. Transition to protection is the new business, is important. The shocking use of ratepayer money to lose rare urban habitat, such as the $20,000 spent on one crane to remove that catalpa tree, is something that should be spent on eco-literacy signage. Instead, the removal of these trees appears to be helping the rezoning for development, such as on Boyd Street, right near Hillview. That should be investigated. As said before, in this current system, there are only two people who can account for nature, the current and the former general managers, because they protect the residents and the assets of the local government area. These assets have been messed up by the wrong planning in this environmentally sensitive area. For example, in true accounting, the debacle over the Norman Griffiths Oval should be resolved by giving the oval back to nature in reply for all the environmental damage that has been done in Ku-ring-gai. The soils and the seed bank and the vegetation removed is an irreversible damage. So these losses are also a license to kill rare urban wildlife. And that is essential to turn around, because those wildlife are ecosystem engineers. And this has only been a recent realization that wildlife engineer and maintain the ecosystems that you and I need to survive.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Doesn't look like we have any questions for you.
I have that chart there that I'm showing state and federal government, and I'd be happy to show it to the councillors
Yeah,
and the
if you
general
could maybe
manager.
pass that to the governance staff and they will look after that for you. Our next speaker is Tony Bates, representing the Marion Street Action is what it's noted here, for support for an arts and cultural meeting place.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors, staff, and ladies and gentlemen. Wendy Blacksland's coming up after me, and she reminds me of a ladybug. She comes into your garden and tells stories, and everyone loves to see her. I fear I'm a bit more like a mosquito. You think you've got rid of me, but I keep coming back and buzzing in your ears. But I don't want to tell you what I think, because we've already sent you our submissions. All of you have received our submission for the SRV. But I thought I would just read out some of the submissions that Council has received from others about your own consultation about the SRV. And we've seen hundreds of resident submissions, including ones from artistic directors, a playwright, a conductor of Opera Australia, a curator of Vivid Sydney, just a who's who of people keen to see the arts supported in Ku-ring-gai. We also, on that last weekend, gathered some letters of support, and I just wanted to touch on a few. Kalara Music Club is the largest music club in Sydney. They said, give us bread, but give us roses too. And they juggle between Ravenswood and the Uniting Church, but their big wish is to hold their centenary celebrations at Marion Street. Sing Australia is a national group with its local base in Gordon. They said, while we've performed at wonderful venues in other council venues, it is somewhat embarrassing and inconvenient to have no suitable venue in our own home council area. Humming Song, national organisation of 16 choirs, all women, with their base in French's Forest. We couldn't fit them on the stage when we held We Heart the Arts at the Kalara Uniting Hall. They said, spaces like Marion Street are crucial for nurturing creativity and ensuring the arts are accessible and thriving for generations to come. Sanskriti, Indian Performing Arts School for children and adults from age 4, offering dance, music, yoga, all sorts of creative pursuits based in St Ives and Hornsby. They said, reopening Marion Street's not a luxury, it's an investment in culture, in education and in well-being and in the local economy. The North Shore Theatre were deeply concerned about the exodus of performing arts from Ku-ring-gai. They see the reopening of Marion Street as a clear and direct and effective solution to that exodus. They held a special meeting. They passed a motion of their committee and they moved heaven and earth to submit to your SOV deadline. They said, investment in performing arts has ripple effects that are felt across the community, and investment that pays dividends across the social well-being of the whole community and the whole economy. There are lots of others, but I want to end with Marion Street Theatre for Young People, who absolutely support option 4, saying an entire generation of kids has missed out. They said this, in an era dominated by digital consumption, it is critical to foster environments where the next generation can create, not just consume. They said Marion Street is not just a building, it's a launch pad for imagination, healing, social cohesion and civic pride. Perfect, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Tony. It looks like I have a question from Councillor Matt Devlin, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr Bates, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a supporter of the arts and culture, and I certainly enjoy attending my share performances. Only last month was able to attend, quite fortunately, a wonderful performance at the Opera House, another at the Capitol Theatre. Now, all of those was, both of those, were something we went for dinner and drinks beforehand, and were able to go and engage socially thereafter, because they're in larger precincts, and the performance themselves are not the sole take away from an evening per se, but there's opportunity for broader engagement in the community. Would it be wiser that council considered investing in more arts and cultural precincts and providing greater access across the whole of the LGA rather than potentially investing all of our eggs in one poorly disconnected basket?
Look, I think it would be fair to say that council for over a decade have considered exactly the sorts of questions you're asking and formed a Marion Street Reference Committee and came to a conclusion to build the DA on that site. And my background, as most of you know, is at the Ensemble Theatre, which is in an LGA, which is not a large theatre, which has a restaurant, which is near public transport. All of the elements that are true of Marion Street. The land was chosen by residents over 100 years. You've heard me say it over and over and over again. Council unanimously approved a DA that it's the perfect site, and that DA is a lovely, lovely design that is an arts and cultural space across multidisciplines, and that's the messaging.
Thanks, Mr. Bates.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you, Tony. And our last speaker for this evening is Wendy Blaxland, who will be speaking on the Marion Street Theatre. Whenever you're ready, Wendy.
Mayor, councillors, staff, community members. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your upcoming minute about local historian Jo Harris, an enthusiastic community member who loved sharing her historical knowledge. I love history too, and I will finally publish my History of Marion Street Theatre when the last chapter can thank Ku-ring-gai Council for reopening it. Let me share a few tidbits from when the Kalara Community Hall was transformed into Australia's very first suburban repertory theatre. Actor Alexander Archdale took 8 years of hard work to do this in 1967 at the actual theatre, giving his excited community professional theatre right near home. By 1970, he was putting on the Scottish play, Macbeth, often seen as unlucky. Then the theatre wasn't air-conditioned, so they kept the back doors of the auditorium open. At one never-to-be-forgotten matinee, a stray golden retriever trotted in. Actress Deborah Kennedy said he had perfect timing. Just as Macbeth asked, "Is this a dagger that I see before me?" this friendly North Shore dog wandered on stage. Still in character, Macbeth escorted it out. Now, everyone wanted the theatre to succeed, but money was always scarce. The next artistic director, Peter Collingwood, remembered cleaning the toilets and the auditorium between Saturday matinees and evening shows. But what did the shows cost the patron then? You could buy 8 tickets to any of the shows for $15. Peter decided to offer meals before the show. This smorgasbord, with hot entrees, choice of meats and coffee, cost $2. When his wife supplied desserts, the whole meal cost $2.50. Plenty more tidbits another time. Theatre people bring stories alive, and audience members help create each performance. We forget the history of Marion Street Theatre to the detriment of our common legacy. But what about the future? Each year I speak to some Year 5 students, 11 to 12-year-olds. This year I asked who knew about Marion Street Theatre for young people. One hand went up. What about Marion Street Theatre? Not one. Last year, perhaps a dozen. And I realised they weren't born when MSTYP was playing at Marion Street Theatre. It's not me who's missing out, it's them. And all the future generations who deserve the arts close to home. The endless procrastination about the rebuilding not only drives up costs, it robs future generations of a living tradition. Council, the future of the arts in Ku-ring-gai is in your hands. Honour the past, work for the future, now, please. Thank you.
And it looks like I have a question from Councillor Matt Devlin, if you're okay to take that question.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Blaxland. Like everyone else in the room, I'm sure, I'm not alone when I say I appreciate your very evident passion and your dedication to this. It's quite obvious. That said, my one question to you is, how would you suggest a response is made, or how would you suggest the council might respond to residents who are suggesting that funding should be spent or shared further or more widely across the LGA?
Than just on the theatre? Do you mean?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So cultural funds for culture?
Yeah. Spread more
More evenly.
across the whole of the LGA. Yes.
Two answers. Number one is that we talk about it as a theatre, but it's going to be for all the arts. So that is covering a bigger remit than just theatre. The other thing is that a theatre, it takes its audience from everywhere. It's not just from Kalara. And it goes much further than that as well. So I think it is very, literally almost short-sighted to say, I live in Wahroonga, this is only going to benefit Kalara. It benefits everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. There looks like there's no further questions. So thank you, Wendy. And thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's public forum. The webcast of this forum will be published to Council's website tomorrow. The Council meeting will be held at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, and you are encouraged to attend in person or view the live web stream via the Council website. I encourage you to continue to stay engaged with Council and share your feedback. Thank you again for your participation this evening, and I declare the forum closed at 7:37. Have a good evening.